This should be something. I don't know why I'm doing it, but seen a couple of libertarians actually defend Tucker Carlson. So I want to bring this up because his guest is some right-wing ex-military, ex-politician or failed politician, Jason Kelly out of Arizona, who barely lost to Gabriel Gifford, I think her name is, for the I think it was governor. I'm going to say, I'm not too sure. But anyway, Tucker Carlson yesterday had this guy on yesterday to talk about manhood or lack thereof in the military. Yeah. Really big news, these national news stations like Fox and CNN. I'm preaching to the choir here. I don't watch the news, but I saw this clip and it's a doozy.
Christopher Grady is Joe Biden's nominee for vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So this is one of the people overseeing our nation's entire military. At a recent hearing, Grady, who is apparently an admiral of some kind.
But if you take a look at the background of Kelly, right? Not Kelly, I'm sorry, but Grady is an admiral of the United States Navy. He's actually he's serving as the commander of the Naval Forces Northern Command and commander of the Joint Force Maritime Component. And he's been serving since 1984, probably before Tucker Carlson was even born. Yes, that's sarcasm. My pitiful attempt at levity. Anyway, over 37 years of service. Now, I don't need to tell you how I feel about our foreign policy and our my disdain for the military regarding them being used. So my critique is not of the servicemen and women, but of the people who run them and lie to them and manipulate them and use them for wars that have no benefit besides the very few. And they use media outlets like this joker, right? This guy, and CNN, MSNBC, CBS, and then Washington Post, New York Times, Zionist rags, pro-military, pro-war.
Explained his plan to make our military competitive with China.
How will you implement women, peace, and security within the joint staff?
Yes, thank you. The role of a gender advisor is a way to attack a very significant issue, and if confirmed, I look forward to leveraging those advisors who can make me think better and smarter about the issues that you raise. So I look forward to, if confirmed, understanding that ecosystem and helping advance that cause going forward.
So Christopher Grady leverages things in the ecosystem that he inhabits. No, he's not a McKinsey consultant. Again, this guy claims to be an admiral. The question really is, will the gender advisor...
He claims to be an admiral. Well, if you did your homework, you would know. I mean, it took seconds for me to, bring up his profile, and that he's a longstanding serviceman, almost 4 decades. How much did you serve, actually, Carlson? That's one thing. I may be critical of foreign policy and how the military is used, but I never demean the servicemen and women. It takes an extra kind of courage to want to get yelled at early in the morning when you go through basic training camp and basically reformat your life when you're at the age of 18. And, but needless to say, my vitriol is not toward them, but to their superiors high up in the Department of Defense, in the White House, and advocated to push for war by people like this guy.
Christopher Grady's in favor of make our military better, more fearsome. Jesse Kelly served in the military.
See, that's all that matters to him. You know, that's all that matters to people of the fringe right. Now these, you know, the classic conservatives, they have very little in common with people like, say, Tom Cotton or Marjorie Taylor Greene. These are fanatics. They're not normal, these people. They don't think like the regular human being. These people are thinking of interests to them, not to you, the common people, because you're common and you have nothing in common with them because they live in suburbia, away, far away from the medium and lower classes. And that's what this is ultimately about, and which is lost on the American people, is that this is, and always has been, class warfare, us versus them. And they have manipulated us to concentrate on the trivial things like politics and racism and sexism, all the isms, the human constructs that don't exist, but they exist in the context of controlling and using us and fighting and keeping us separated from each other.
He's the host of the Jesse Kelly Show, and we are grateful.
Okay, a little bit about this guy. And this is the main show right here, right? His name is Jason Kelly. Jason Kelly hosts a show, the Jesse Kelly Show. A little bit about his background. He joined the U.S. Marine Corps in 2000, and allegedly on September 11, 2001, he watched the towers fall from inside his barracks. He also deployed to Iraq as an infantry Marine during the Second Persian Gulf War, received an honorable discharge. He has no political experience to speak, and he ran for Congress in the District of Arizona and lost against Gabriel Gifford for Congress. This show started in April of 2020. And this guy's a hard conservative. Now, they're going to be talking about China. So let's play video.
To have him tonight. So Jesse, really simple. Do you think the key to remaining competitive with the Chinese military is more gender advisors?
Oh, there's no question, Tucker. I mean, China right now and Russia, they're both testing hypersonic missiles that can turn New York City to ash. Russia is actually developing and has developed satellites that can push our satellites out of orbit.
Well, let's stop right there for a minute. So this guy is actually already starting off with the hint of fear, right? They can attack us whenever they can. You know, they got these long-range missiles and nuclear weapons. Well, he's never heard of the Mutually Assured Destruction Pact with Russia, where it was signed during the Reagan administration, and where both countries admit that if either country instigated a nuclear war, the other side would also lose just the same amount of people. And so that would be mutually assured. They know that neither one would win. So there'd be no winners. So there would be no benefit for Russia to strike us and for us to strike Russia whatsoever, right off the bat. You would think he knows this, but yeah.
And completely cripple our military.
And like China, and that's another thing, like China's going to attack the United States. They're trying to build their country into a competitor, right? And what's wrong with competition? You know, this guy actually thinks that the United States should be the end all and overall. We should be the beacon of light for the world. Well, that's pretty arrogant. And we haven't been the beacon of light for the world. Just ask half of Middle East, Southeast Asia, Central America, all these countries that we use the CIA and the Pentagon to commit coups in their countries and destroy their countries from within with economic sanctions using the United Nations to basically commit their own sanctions as well, destroy countries from within and implement Western-backed leaders because the other leaders weren't too privy to coordinate with American interests, whether it be from the fossil fuel industry or the foreign lobbies or political interests, the banking industry, all these corrupt industries, by the way.
Our military, though, they're focused on the important things. We want to focus on climate change, and we definitely have to make sure they're.
Yeah, heaven forbid climate change. First of all, that's the real enemy to the world, right? Climate change, carbon emission gases. There's a reason why the past 10 years, we have seen an increase in heat around the world, especially here in the United States. I know, I live in New York. I remember when Decembers were cold, no longer the case.
Enough tampons in the restrooms at the Pentagon.
Oh, yeah. And, here he is. Here it is right there, right? Women are a threat to the military. Well, by the way, if you go to the demographics on americaspromise.org, in which I'm at right now, it says, because I want to read not from my own opinion, but from direct statistics from website, which shows that 17% of active role of the military, 14.4% of women in the military. 30% are minorities. 56% are married. But this guy thinks women are a threat because we aren't man enough to defeat Russia and China. By the way, something that he is remiss to tell you, we are well past the days of sending troops on the ground. It won't happen with Russia and China. We live in the age of a technological war. Drones, missile strikes, ballistic missiles, long range, short range, that could shoot from naval carriers and military bases, in which we have 800 in over 70 countries.
That's kind of what they're saying. I mean, I don't know. There's a psychological term for this, and it escapes my memory at the moment, but where there's a massive real threat that you can't deal with, so you scurry off and deal with imaginary threats to make yourself feel in control. That kind of feels like what we're watching.
Well, what we're watching is the destruction of the U.S. military, and what we're going to end up seeing, Tucker, is thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Americans die. Those are the stakes of the game we're playing.
I just want to stop it right there, right? So this guy actually thinks that
here we don't need a military that's.
Let me reverse it a little bit.
Those are the stakes of the.
Right. So this guy really just thinks that hundreds of thousands of Americans are just going to die because we don't have enough men in the military. When we have, I just read you the stats, 86% of military members, men. There are women in the Russian military. There are women in the Chinese military. Could be wrong about that. Not too sure. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm pretty sure that everybody has to serve in the military in China. So, these hard right people are just like pro-war. And I don't understand why the libertarian movement sought to think that Tucker Carlson was anything but. Yeah, he once said that America would gain nothing from starting a war with Russia. He thinks it's a lunatic idea. he'd be right. Look here. Tucker Carlson, America would gain nothing from starting war with Russia. No one seems aware of how crazy pitching nuclear warfare with Russia is, Carlson says. And that was on December 8th, this, just a couple of days, 10 days ago. But he's having on a guest that seems to think that a war with Russia and China is imminent, and we need men to do it. So, yeah, I don't get it with people like, I don't know what people think that Tucker Carlson's not anti-war. He's not. He's a showman. He's not a journalist by any means. None of these people are on CNN or ABC or on Fox. Worse is OAN and Newsmax. You want to see what real fascist people sound like? Go to those channels, Newsmax and OAN, and see the real epitome of sociopathy. This guy would be considered liberal compared to Newsmax and OAN. That's funny because they consider themselves conservative as well, but he doesn't fit the like-minded idea of people like Ben Simmons. Is that his name? Ben Simmons, I think, from Newsmax. These guys are nuts.
Real threat that you can't deal with, so you scurry off and deal with imaginary threats to make yourself feel in control. That kind of feels like what we're watching.
Well, what we're watching is the destruction of the U.S. military, and what we're going to end up seeing, Tucker, is thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Americans die. Those are the stakes of the game we're playing here. We don't need a military that's woman-friendly. We don't need a military that's gay-friendly, with all due respect to the Air Force. We need
See, I mean, really, this guy basically, just doesn't care, right, about the changing of the times. This guy would rather live in 1940 and probably has never seen a battlefield in his life. This is the type of guy that pushes the other kids, says, fight that guy. Yeah, he joined the military. So what? I know a ton of people who join the military and never seen battlefield. They only go there to get a high-paying job. And he got a dishonorable discharge. What did he get that for? For dishonor. He didn't have an honorable discharge. Who did he punch or slap? Or maybe he's the one who got punched and slapped because he told somebody they were homo or something like that. Because I could tell what this guy is. He's a troublemaker.
We need a military that's flat out hostile. We need a military full of type A men who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls.
And there it is, right? There's the comment. So this guy basically is like the guy who basically talks tough but doesn't want to fight, right? This guy will never be on the front lines of a battlefield, nor will he be on the second lines or the third lines. This guy will be on somebody's couch watching John Wayne films, screaming how big and bad America is. But he won't ever live up to the hype, right? He's a talker. That's like all these pundits are from Fox. You talk about how tough you are. And listen, tough people don't talk about how tough they are. Just like people who served in the military. Now, look, I'll use the example, like people in Vietnam. They don't talk about their experiences of what they did, who they hurt, who they killed. And you can ask their relatives. Because when they asked those who served, they basically say, I'm not going to talk about it. This guy, yeah, he'll tell you stories. I served in the Second Gulf War. I killed those Iraqis. He's proud to tell you because he's never killed anybody. Nor shot a gun his whole life. Maybe in basic training. This guy never saw a war in his life. Real war. Where he has to look at the opponent in the face and pull that trigger. Now, this guy would rather tell you how tough he is and how tough the American military is, that we don't need women. So to him, women are interfering with a man's job of killing people and killing people from a faraway land. Well, I say send him to the front lines of China or Russia or the Sudan, Afghanistan. Let them go to Kabul, these two. And everybody at Newsmax and OAN, and everybody at CNN and MSNBC, with Trevor Noah. Send these guys. Because they're the ones who don't care. They'll tell you, your sons need to serve. We need them to serve, to go kill people. These are the people who should be serving. The politicians, they should be on the front lines.
But we don't have that now. We can't even get women off of naval vessels. That should be step one, but most of them are already pregnant anyway.
Wow, see, look at that. What does that tell you, right? So, you know what you should do? I should tell you, Jesse, why don't you go on a naval vessel, right? And tell that to a woman's face. What does he think about women? Is he married? I mean, it's awful the way these people think. They're so primitive. It's shocking that anyone watches the news. I can't believe that we have people in this country that still watch the news because you're still programmed. I haven't watched TV in 13 years. 13 years I haven't watched TV. 2008. It's the last time I watched TV. I am horrified at the current predicament of news. And this is not news. These are all op-ed pieces. That's all they are. They don't report news. You go on Fox and CNN and look at what they portray on the TV, on the internet. Look what they lend to their viewer. Divisive human constructs that are meant to divide the American people away from each other. They talk about racism. They talk about politics. They talk about religion. They talk about sexism. All the trivial matters. They don't matter. They just don't. You know, there was a debate last night on Killstream. I don't know what Killstream is, but it looks like a really racist stream headed by, I don't know who it was, but one of the leading libertarians in the United States, Dave Smith, debated who is now considered a moderate conservative, I guess, Nick Fuentes. I know very little about him. I know who he is. I've seen videos of him, and he used to be a little bit more rabid in his rhetoric regarding racism, but he's a nationalist. So, like, throughout the stream, the comments were like, well, we have to concentrate on white ethnic race and nationalism and protecting, you know, the white race. And this is all trivial garbage, right? He's not enlightened enough to think that if humanity, basically all they have to do is unplug from that which is manipulated into you or programmed into you. And it's all over the place. I mean, politics, racism, religion, sexism, all this is basically transparent human constructs. They don't exist because there's a human race that transcends all of this. And we're much higher beings than what we are led to believe mentally. Or if you're someone who believes in higher power, spiritually. Spirituality has nothing to do with organized religion. In fact, organized religion is antithetical to spirituality, just like racism is antithetical to culture. That politics is antithetical to community. Neither one has any affiliation with the other. In fact, they're detached. But you are led to believe that these exist and that these properties are what defines you, and they don't define you at all. You're bigger than that. You're more powerful than that. And you have to understand that in order to be free, because you're enslaved to people like these two guys. They'll tell you, hey, you're a Christian, you're white. We got to keep it that way in the United States. The hell with race mixing, the hell with other cultures. We need to kill them. That's what they're basically, this guy's basically saying. We need to kill the Chinese. You know, 40 years ago, even 30 years ago, this guy wouldn't be given a platform. Today, Tucker Carlson gives him his word. Now, Tucker Carlson will tell you, oh, it's not me saying it. Well, then why would you give him a platform knowing what he's about? And you know what he's about because he has his own conservative show. Well, I don't condone what he does, but I'll give him a platform. Well, if you don't condone what he does, you wouldn't give him a platform. Because you're going to be held accountable for what you say. He doesn't care. You will, because you work for a media station that already got in trouble and had to backtrack regarding COVID, right? Giving out false information, even though I myself think that we've been lied to on both sides of the field, and COVID was immediately politicized, and he certainly didn't help. But neither did CNN or MSNBC, who put the fear of God into people, thinking that we need to give up certain civil liberties.
So this Grady character who's going to leverage things in the ecosystem was just confirmed today. So you wonder about our political leaders who oversee our military, by definition. Are they not interested in defending the country?
No, they don't have any love of country. Tucker, you and I have talked about this privately 100 times and on your show 100 times. That's really the problem that plagues America. Our admirals now, too, our generals, our politicians who appoint these people, everything is political. The United States military to them is a way to do woman outreach or gay outreach. They don't even consider looking at the military and protecting America because they don't give a crap about America. They're going to sit and bloodsuck it for every dime they can and then pass it on to their useless kids to do the same thing once they're gone.
Yeah, see, now this guy, he's give him a mirror. That's what he's talking. You are explaining what you are, right? You're the one who is telling your children, God forbid if you have children, that you would tell other people's children to go enter a useless war where there would be death and destruction. You don't care about the psychological effects of war and what it does to a person, right? Because you never saw a battlefield in your life. And that goes the same for this, Mo, right? So you basically don't care about human life. You care about preserving your way of life. Keep it white, keep it right, and keep it military, all men. And get the women where they belong, barefoot in the kitchen and without an opinion. That's what these people want. And then you get the fanatics over on the left. You're not progressives, by the way, or the classic definition of liberalism. You're fanatics, anarchists, authoritarians, right? Those people, they basically don't want any structure whatsoever, and they don't care about community. They want to fracture the country. The identity is not white, it's not Christian, it's not left, it's not right. The identity is the human race. You'll never hear from him or anybody from CNN. Don Lemon. God, Don Lemon. How could anyone watch that guy and take him seriously? CBS, NBC, they don't tell you the important issues of life. They don't tell you about community. They don't tell you about the evolution of the mind. They don't tell you about things that benefit you, the human race. They'll tell you divisive stories. The Rittenhouse trial. Are they reporting on the Maxwell trial, for example, Ghislaine Maxwell, and what could be a large global network of sex trafficking involving people from the left and right? No. What do they say? These people, this guy will come on and talk about how the military needs more men because we need to kill people in China. And we need to kill them with prejudice. That's news. That's what he considers news. And he isn't alone. I'm not specifically picking on him. I'm just using this video as an example for the libertarian movement who think that this guy basically is the best person to try and get on your side. No. What I would suggest to you, and this is my opinion, and my opinion means nothing, get rid of all the conservatives, get rid of all the leftists, get rid of all the right, people of the left and right, get rid of them. You don't need them, right? I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about proponents like him. These guys are prostitutes. They prostitute themselves in front of the TV because the bigger people, which you won't see, are the interests behind the media, which I think are 8 or 9 corporations, right? And then you got the intelligence apparatuses. And then you got the U.S. military, like the 8th Psychological Operations, the 4th Psychological Operations Unit. And I did a video with Liberty Weekly regarding this, okay? How they manipulate news media, manipulate the viewer. Psychological warfare, a war for your mind. That's what's going on here. To keep you divided away from each other so that you won't concentrate and act as a whole unit against the problem, which is the U.S. government and their interests. We're never going to have an honest government. We're far beyond that point now. And the only hope seems to be like the libertarian movement. And I'm new to them. I'm not a libertarian, but I like some of their points. I'm anti-war. I'm for the human community. These people are not. Not this guy. Especially not this guy. This guy doesn't care about you. He wants you to fight his battles for him. Sounds familiar? That's Israel. That's Saudi Arabia. And we consider them allies. Why? Ask the bigger questions. The bigger questions are our foreign policy. You know, just a week ago, the House, over unanimous vote, by the way, from both the left and right, in the Senate, in the House, unanimously voted on a bill for the National Defense Authorization Act, $778 billion for the Department of Defense. I just did a video about this. That's news. He's not reporting on it. Neither is he, because he approves of it. More money for the military. Where does most of that money come from? The taxpayers, the coffers. And where is that money not going to? The public industries, Social Security, education, healthcare, things that matter for everybody in the country. One thing about people who lean hard right in the conservative movement, they're the biggest welfare leeches of all. And they don't care about the economic prosperity of the United States. I mean, all you have to do is go back to the Roosevelt, maybe even a little bit further, to see for yourself. And let's just keep it recent, since Reagan, about the economic downturn of the country, which really took a real downturn under Bill Clinton with the creation of the NAFTA Act, which sent American jobs overseas because they didn't want to pay health care, which is the biggest premium of all for any large corporation. Hell, why do I have to give health care to an American worker when I don't have to give health care to someone in Indonesia or the Philippines, and they'll work at 4 cents an hour? That's slave labor. Meanwhile, the CEOs of these companies like Target and Walmart, they're making money hand over fist. Is that news for Tucker Carlson? Is that news for Jesse Kelly? No. It's not news on CNN. It's not news on NBC or MSNBC. And nobody else for that matter. Because when you realize that the finer and more important details of the human race are not reported. And to me, I think what could really unite the libertarian movement is to have them talk about the most important issue, which is U.S. foreign policy. And some of the best libertarians in the United States are talking about this, and that's Scott Horton and Kyle Anzalone and Patrick McFarland and Will Porter and Dave DeCamp and Connor Freeman. Those guys report every day on viral media. And they deserve a much bigger following because they're talking about the greater and more important issues affecting not just the United States, but for the global community as a whole. Now, that's real libertarianism. Not the Rittenhouse trial, not nationalism or race relations. Cares about that. We'll take care of those problems later. We got to talk about saving the world first. And if we have people like Jason Kelly speaking on behalf and given a huge platform to talk about sending your kids to war, and you're too busy talking about how to keep the United States white, but you ain't going to have a white race in the United States if they're all extinct because you concentrated on race relations instead of trying to preserve the world from World War III.